Hey, Mike Callahan here. Making a quick live video. Had a question submitted. Trying to go live every day to answer some questions for business practices and systems. Question submitted today was, how do we deal with setting a standardized pricing matrix up for fall cleanups? Whether we're using a Google Doc, Excel sheet, pen and paper, or my choice is the software platform we use is Service Autopilot. So what I'm going to do is literally go in live and show you how we build this out step by step. Bear with me here. My voice is a little shot from today, getting over being sick, but want to dive in and just show you how to actually build this out, creating a standardized pricing matrix for doing a fall cleanup. So the first thing we're going to do is go in. I'm going to narrow the screen down so you can actually see what I'm working on here. What's up with the Word family? What's going on, guys? So basically what we've got here is a pricing matrix grid. So what I recommend is whether you're on pen and paper, a Google Doc, Excel sheet, these are things that you really want to dial out on paper before you enter it into a CRM, such as Service Autopilot or just, another large Excel sheet or Google Doc. So I'm going to show you how we actually build it out manually and then how we actually import that into Service Autopilot to create an automated pricing system that can be delegated. So the question was, how do we handle a non-hourly charge? So I'm going to go into how do you set up a heavy, medium, and light coverage for the trees? How do we handle fence lines? How do we handle debris dumping? How do we handle drive time? And some other factors. And then I'm also going to show you how we handle the hourly charge and how we handle subcontractors all in one solid workflow. And then if you are using Service Autopilot at the end of this, if you want to hang on and see how we set this up, I'm actually going to show you how we build the actual pricing matrix, the services, the grids, the custom fields, how we incorporate that into one estimate, complete with videos to overcome any sales or price objections, how we tie an email to it, and it's created a systematic workflow that can be delegated to just about anybody in your office. And I'll even go into the maps feature so you can actually see how we actually measure it out in my company and actually provide an estimate live online without physically going to the property. So we're going to dive into this here. I'm going to try to blow the screen up here a little bit so anybody who's watching this can actually see it. And if you're following this on the recorded version, you can actually take a look at it and have step-by-step directions as well. So the first thing we did is this basically is the grid that we use when we set Service Autopilot up for companies. So it's a certified advisor. We did probably 6 or 7 setups in that platform just that last week alone from the ground up, because some people just don't have time or the skill set. But this is the process how we set this up. So no matter what system you're using for your estimating and billing, this would be the process I recommend. So we're going to go in here. The first one is a cleanup heavy. So this is going to be anywhere from 80 to 100% tree coverage. And I'll show you how we actually check that out online. But this is what that's going to be. So what we've got here is right here, we've got the charge per man hour. So this is what we're charging per man hour. So our goal right here is $55 per man hour when we're on site. And due to our overhead expenses, we know it's costing us $38 to operate. So I'm going to hop into another sheet in a few minutes to show you where these numbers are coming from. We're not just pulling them out of the air. These are actually hard numbers in this fictitious example. But if you're building this out in your company, I'm going to give you the framework to actually how to figure out what you should be charging and what it's costing you per hour to actually operate. But here I want to get into the context of this first. So we've got a heavy cleanup. It's going to be 1 to 5,000 square feet is our base price of $250. So our base price for $250 to show up to do a fall cleanup is going to be across the board for our heavy, medium, and light cleanups, but we're going to have a larger square foot turf area that we can cover. So in this example, this isn't my pricing in my company. It's a little fictitious. Obviously, we don't want to give that away, but I want to give you how we build this out so you can put your own numbers in it. So our base price here is 1 square foot to 5,000 square feet for $250 for heavy cleanup, 80 to 100% tree coverage in the yard. We said it's going to take 4.55 man hours, and we multiply that by $55 an hour, and that gives us the $250 a cut or $250 a cleanup. And then at $38 per man hour break even, it gives us a break even cost. What it costs us to actually do the cleanup is $172. So the delta between $250 and $172.90 is our profit. So after our base price, we want to go in and actually take a look at it. So every 500 square feet over our 5,000 square foot base price, is an additional $25 charge, 0.45 man hours. So as it takes, and this is an example is for one person to do it. So if we had multiple people, person crew, that math would change a little bit. This is based if one person was doing as you're imagining it. So if you're creating this process, envision it if it's only one person. We may have a 3-person crew, a 5-person crew. It doesn't matter. This is the foundational elements we need in here. And a budgeted cost for each additional 500 square feet above the base price of 5,000 square feet is $17.27. So that's our heavy cleanup price. Service number 2 as we go in here is a medium cleanup price. So that is our base price of $250 again, and it's from 1 square foot to $62.50. So our base price up above, if you look at it, for heavy cleanup was up to 5,000 square feet. Now our production rate is going to go a little bit higher because there's not as much tree coverage. So from 1 to 62.50 square footage is our base price of a $250 for a medium cleanup. That's 50% to 79% tree coverage. We still have the 0.445 man hours and the break even at 7.29. And then we're going to plug this back in here as the additional every 500 feet over our base square footage of 6,250 is an extra $20 here and 0.36 man hours and budgeted cost of $13.80. So you've noticed that production rate now is getting a little bit greater and we get more square footage produced on a medium coverage. So now we've got our heavy, our medium, and now we're going to go down to our light tree coverage. So that's going to be 0% to 49% tree coverage. And I'm going to show you on the aerial how we're actually going to take a look at this. We're going to train our office staff to take a look at certain factors to make sure we're having an accurate estimate. So this is going to be 1 square foot to 7,813 square feet, base price of $250, same budget hours of 4.55 and a break-even expense of $172.90. And this is all based on breaking even at $38 per man hour, expense per hour, and the charge per man hour, $55. And then every 500 square feet over the 72.83 is an additional $16 per 500, additional 0.29 man hours, and a budgeted cost of 57. So it looks like our math is wrong here. So I'm actually going to go in and take a look to see what happened here. So it's our break-even cost. So this formula here, as I transferred out, was wrong, but I'll give you an idea how we actually calculate the math. So we're taking our budgeted hours. So it's going to be equals budgeted. Let's pull that back here. So we're going to go, once we get back in here, let me reverse that back out and I'll show you the formula. So budgeted cost here is going to be equals budgeted hours times our expense per man hour. So that's our break-even point. That's what it costs us to operate. So we're charging $16. It's costing us $11.05 to operate. So now we've got heavy, medium, and light tree coverage. So the next thing we're going to look at is, okay, what if we have fence lines? We find on average in our company, there's a certain percentage. If we're blowing out fence lines, on average, our average square foot lot is between 8,000 and 10,000 square feet in our ideal customers. So that's what we base it on. So every set of fence lines in the backyard, we're charging an extra $55. So basically, it's going to take an extra hour of labor to blow it out and possibly rake out some corners if it's wet. We've got a budgeted man hours of 1 hour and a break even at 38. And then if there's additional fence lines, if it's a bigger yard, we can add that factor in again. For every one fence line over the additional fence line that we started with is another $55, budgeted hours of 1 hour and a cost of 38. So now we're covering different variables. So we've got heavy, medium, and light tree coverage. We've got fence lines. I would suggest going in, depending on your setup, if you're using like a 60-inch Z with a bagger or different equipment that won't fit through certain size gates. In our company, we also have a factory to account for certain gate sizes, or if we can't fit a full-size vacuum machine in there or blow machine in there, that we will not take the job, or there's another factor that goes in. I'm not going to get into that detail right here, but putting that out there, that's another factor you're going to want to plug that in there. And then the next thing we're going to do is debris dump. So the biggest thing we find is a lot of companies that I've been working with, including my own before I really got into this, is we didn't allow enough time for dumping the debris, the drive time and the actual cost, whether we're doing it on site to compost it or if we're going to a paid place. So what we're saying here is for every dump, 1-to-1, we're charging $55. So basically that's going to cover our labor and our cost to dump. And it's going to take us 1 man-hour and our break even at $48. And why those numbers have changed here is because we got our $55 plus an extra $10 to actually dump the debris. So we've got those numbers figured in here as well. So we're figuring out now the time to go out and dump. The next thing that's a big factor here is drive time. So now we've covered our on-site time for heavy, medium, and light foliage coverage for the trees. We figured out the time to go out and dump with the expense to actually dump it on site at our shop or someone else's where we're paying them. Now we got to figure out what's the dashboard time. How long are we actually driving on average? So the easiest way of doing this, it's not exact science, but I would do is take your postal codes or zones and say if we can do on average 4 or 5 cleanups in this zone or postal code, we'll divide out the average drive time from your shop to those 4 stops back to your shop and divide that out over those 4 or 5 stops. And that's going to give us a projected time. So basically what I'm saying is drive time zone right here is 0.82 hours. And now we need to make sure if it's a 2-man crew or a 3-man crew, we account for that. I'm assuming this, in this example, it's a 1-person crew. So we're actually going out and we're charging $45 for drive time and it's costing us $31.16 for drive time zone 1. Now drive time zone 2 is a little farther out from our shop. So we're going to charge $55 for this area. And it's going to take us an hour and it's going to cost us $38. So now we're covering our on-site time for variables for leaf coverage. We're charging our dump time, fence lines, which are going to take longer, obviously, and drive time. When we have all these figures, we're going to go in and create an automated matrix that can be delegated and measured off Google Maps or Maps Pro and Service Autopilot. I don't want to lose everybody, but I do want to give a little context of how we came up with $55 an hour and the $38 per hour expense. So I'm just going to dive into this. This is an example. It's fictitious, but it's going to give you some idea of some foundational numbers. So we have the average wage calculator. So there's 3 parts of this in a Moore system. It's a multiple overhead recovery system. So we're going to cover our labor costs, our equipment costs, and our G&A, our general administrative costs. So that's things like your office rent, insurance. So if we're doing 1 job or 1 million jobs this year, that is going to cover that cost. So the way we attack this is we list all of our crew members for this cleanup division. So if this individual is making $16 an hour and the next one's making $11, we're going to put that in there with the average hours they've worked for the year projected. What the calculations do here is it averages the wages of all the people on the truck, and then we put an overtime percentage. So on average, in this example, 10% of their paycheck throughout the year is overtime. So it's going to figure this in, and then we got an average wage with overtime. So as we look at this, no matter who is on that truck, we know on average when we go out to put that fall cleanup bid together, it's costing us $15.95 in average wage, including overtime. And overtime is obviously pretty normal in a fall cleanup scenario when we're just trying to get the work done, especially in the northern states. Now, southern and southwest may be a little bit different when it's a strung out event where we're going weekly or biweekly. Up north, we're going once or twice, and that's it before the snow falls. So these are the different things you want to take into account as you're looking at where you're in the country. If you have any comments or questions as well as I'm going through this, I'll keep an eye on it, but I definitely want to answer these questions live or recorded for you. The next thing we're going to do is go into our labor burden. So this is our FICA, unemployment, state unemployment, workman's comp, liability, other things such as vacation and holiday pay. These things are going to be added up here as a percentage of the dollar. So if we had 0.05 share for FICA, that's 5 cents on the dollar. So this is a total here. So we're going to get that labor number. The next thing is we're going to go into equipment. And equipment, obviously, with fall cleanups can be a little funky. I mean, we're equipment heavy, especially in the Northeast. So I'm going to load this sheet up and show you how we actually do this. So we go in and actually track the vehicles and what they cost. So we really go into purchase price, years finance, interest rate, years of use, salvage rate is what we have at the end. Work days per year, hours per year, lifetime hours. We go into insurance, we go into oil changes, miles per gallon, cost of gas, tire changes. At the end of the day, what we gives us here is with additional maintenance, it's $4.43 for the truck and trailer. And we're going to do the same process for our trailers, our mowers, and our maintenance package. That would be all your backpack blowers and all the handheld equipment. So once we have those numbers, we're going to go out and literally create an hourly bill rate for this crew. So we're going to say, okay, how many men are on the crew? If it's 2 guys, they're working 10 hours a day. The average wage is $15.95. Our labor burden is taken off our labor sheet. And yes, Tony, I'll definitely post that up at the end of the video for you as well if you're hanging out. He wanted to see the original sheet. Absolutely, not a problem. And I'll zoom into that, and I'll give you guys a link where I can get some more information on that as well. We've got the overhead recovery rate, which is off our P&L. It's going to cover such things as equipment, materials, and subcontractor markup. So we've got our daily labor costs. We've got our truck and trailer set up here. That's cost us $145 a day. Mowers on the crew with the vacuums. That could include a truck loader. Maintenance equipment would be that the blowers, the handheld equipment. But basically, the key of this is, at the end of the day, it's giving me an hourly bill rate of what I need to charge of $45 and a break-even point of $38.85. And we're going out to set up these schedules for that crew. This daily sales goal is $894. So we know we cannot afford to go out and put this crew out based on these numbers and our profit margin of projected 15%. For less than basically $894. And it's going to cost us $777 to operate that 2-man crew for 10 hours, or total of 20 man hours. So those are the numbers that are going to drive your routing and your billing. And why I get into this is that $38 break even and the $45 you're charging is the numbers that is coming up on the sheet that Tony asked about. So basically, that 1-to-1 mark for the $55 an hour charge, in this example, it would have been 45, and that 38. Those are the numbers that we're driving off of, off this sheet here. So now we're not getting emotional. We're not getting onto these Facebook groups and going, hey guys, here's an aerial shot of this house. How much would you charge? Well, I don't care how much the guy down the street is charging. I don't care how much the guy in Michigan is charging. I know my numbers based on that worksheet. And I can go out and competitively bid and make sure we're making the desired profit margin with a bit of a fudge factor, which I would recommend throwing in there for fall cleanups because there's wind, there's rain. I'm also going to show you some reports in Service Autopilot. At the end of this, we can actually create a historical database of all the jobs you've already done and the square footage and those variables. And then you can actually see what it actually takes you for your company based on the equipment you use to actually produce those production rates. So this is the foundation of this. This is how we go out and do this. Now I'm going to go into Service Autopilot and show you how you can create an automated system to do this. So if this looks overwhelming, not a sales pitch, I'm here to give it all to you. Reach out to me, drop me a PM. Very reasonable prices. We will set all of this up for you and train you how to do it in probably 10 days or less. Like I said, we did 6 or 7 of these last week. But my thing is I like to give content away and teach people how to do it. And if they need some help, we're here. So definitely not a sales pitch. Let's get into it and show you how to actually build this out. And this is Service Autopilot if people haven't seen it yet. So what we're going to actually do is add a service here. And I'm going to show you how you tie this all into an actual estimate with videos that play live in the estimate. And then how we can click a couple buttons and actually send this out live. So it's pretty slick. So I'm going to zoom into this the best I can here just so everybody can see it. But what we're going to do is set up a couple services. So we're going to do basically a heavy, but we're going to do a parent service of fall cleanup. And there's a couple ways you can tackle this, but this is probably the easiest way. And I'm just going to copy and paste this because there's certain things that are required here. And the service rate is going to be a flat rate and invoice description. I'm just copying these in because they're needed. Now, if you're using QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online, you can tie into an account. So we can go in and select our property maintenance or whatever those services are, and we can specify a class as well. So pro tip here, if you're using QuickBooks, I highly recommend creating different classes. So if you're doing summer and winter work up in the Northeast or in the North, summer and winter are 2 specifically different businesses with different overhead recovery. If you've got anywhere else in the country, US, Canada, even Australia, we've got a couple people watching. If you're doing maintenance and hardscaping, design build, they should be separate classes. Those overhead recoveries are going to be completely different. They're almost two little businesses under the same roof. If we dial those in classes, when we connect to QuickBooks, we can run reporting to see almost as if their own little business and how profitable are. What we're going to find is sometimes that design build crushes a lot of profit, and other times we find out that design build requires the owner to be there more time than they want to be there. And if we get rid of some of that, we can go do some repetitive maintenance work. And if we do it this way, it can be just as profitable, if not more profitable than design build work. So just a pro tip there. I'm going to just put this in as a summer class. And then we're going to go into estimates. This is where you would put your estimate description. For time's sake, I'm just going to plug this in here. And now the rate matrix. So this is where this cheat sheet that we created will literally give us the executable blueprint. So we want to make the blueprint before we build the house. We want to make the blueprint pricing matrix before we build the pricing inside Service Autopilot or an Excel sheet or a Google Doc. But this is just been a game changer for us in our business when we did this. So calculation rate is quantity rate times visit. Custom field, we're going to tie this into turf square footage. So that is going to track the turf square footage for every client that we do. And I'm just literally going to take our pricing matrix now from this right here and recreate it. There's a thing called a parent and child service. I'm not going to get into it, but this is going to be our parent service. So we really don't need a matrix right here. We're just going to hit save and new. And this is going to make a lot more sense when we get in here. So now the next service is fall cleanup heavy. I'm going to put FB on here just so I can find it because it's Facebook. This is fall cleanup heavy. And we're going to go in and just mark this for estimates only. So we don't have to touch anything except the matrix now. And this is where we're plugging our prices in. So once you take what's in that Excel sheet or Google Doc, it's going to literally do that. So I'm going to say from 1 to 5,000 square feet, which is our base price for our fall cleanup, and that was $250. Now I'm going to go back to our cheat sheet and say, okay, and I'm going to show you how to plug in your drive time and your dump time and the extra charges for fence lines here if you're hanging in with me. But if you have the system of Service Autopilot, you're going to use it. This is the executable blueprint, how to have the system up and running and automate it. So we've got 1 to 5,000 square feet, $250, 4.55 hours, and a cost of $172.90. So we're going to plug that in here. 4.55 hours. I'm going to round that up to 172 even. So now we're going to say every 500 square feet over the 5,000 base price is X amount of dollars more. And the math has already happened in this sheet. So that's an extra $25 with 0.45 man hours. So we're going to go in there and say $45, 0.45 and $17 expense. Now we have this. And now this is, once it's in here, it's set and forget it. Now somebody in your office can tackle your pricing. And if you're using Service Autopilot, you can restrict their access so they don't see your pricing. They can't manipulate it. So obviously, us as the business owners want to have control of our pricing and profit. We don't want people to steal it from us. This is how we set it up. This is how we guard it. And this is how we can delegate it or hold ourselves accountable. So we're going to save and new. And we've got now fall cleanup heavy. And I'm going to go through and set up the fall cleanup medium and the fall cleanup light. And then I'm going to show you drive time, and I'm going to show you dumping and fence lines. And then I'm going to put this all together where we literally plug in the square footage, and the system automatically calculates the prices for light, medium, and heavy, the drive time, the dumping, and we can add fence lines if we want. So this is an all-in-one, boom, immediate price once we measure it online. And I'm going to show you how we can measure it online in the system where it takes the square footage and dumps it right in and saves it for you. So we're going to hit estimates only. Rate matrix, same exact process. So it's really simple once it's set up. And we're going to go from 1 to, and this is where it's important to have that executable blueprint. So 6250 is the square footage. So 6,250 square feet, our base price is $250. So you notice we're able to cover an extra 1,250 square feet now because we're on medium coverage. And that's still going to be budgeted for. So our medium coverage here is 4.55 hours and a cost of $172. $4.5 man hours, $172 in expense. And then we're going to say again, every 500 square feet over our base price of $62.50. And we just go back to our cheat sheet. So this is really easy once we have this in. $20 and 0.36. And we're going to go back and it's costing us $13.82 to produce $20 worth of work. And we're going to save a new. So now we're going to go in and tackle the light, and then I'm going to show you how to charge for drive time and dump fees, and then we're going to dump this in and actually show you how to create this estimate live and produce an estimate literally for fall cleanups within about 3 to 5 minutes. Even if you've never done a fall cleanup, you can estimate it with success from day one now. So we've got this, and now this is the light coverage. We're going to do estimates only, rate matrix, turf square footage. Then 1 to 5,000. Oh, actually, so that's going to change because we're on our light. Our production rates have actually gone up now. So we're going to go down to the light cleanup now, and that is 7813. So 7,813 square feet right here is our base price for light coverage. It's going to be 4.55 man hours, or 250. Price of 250. 4.55 man hours, and it is going to cost us $172. That variable hasn't changed. It's just the production rate, the amount of square footage that we can clean up. Now we're going to go back in there for every 500 square feet over 7,813 square feet. That's our base price size for light coverage of leaf foliage. So after we do that, now we've got that number. So that is going to be $16.29 man hours extra. And that is going to cost us an additional $11.05. Now, the cool part is once we set this up and we got some data in the system, we can actually run reports to see if our pricing is accurate. If you made any comments, if you're hanging with me, I'll answer these live throughout the Facebook Live here, but I want to dial this in. So now we've covered our light, medium, and heavy charges with apparent service. We are going to go in now and actually do a drive time. So actually, let's do the dump fee because that's usually a big question. So dump, fall cleanup, dump fee. And you're probably wondering as you're looking at the client is not going to see all this. All they're going to see is fall cleanup. But we're going to have an internal checklist that we can see in the system that the client's not going to see on their estimate or invoice to make sure we hit all these lists. So this is a real easy way to set up design build work as well. So I know there's a lot of confusion about the SA can't do this. You can do this. We do a lot of this in the home cleaning industry as well. People going out and cleaning residential homes. So the rate matrix now is going to be same thing, specified, and that is going to be, I'm going to do a test drive time. I had it for mulch, but it'd be same thing. So 1-to-1, and we're going to make estimates. Yep, rate matrix, just double checking here. We're going to go back to our cheat sheet to our dump services here. So right here, we're charging $55, 1 hour, $48 expense, including dump fees. So that is 55, 1 hour, and $48. So what we're going to do here is we're going to replicate this. So if this is a big job and we know we have to dump our debris twice, we can manipulate it to charge the dump fee twice. So that's really how easy it is there. So we're going to save and new. Next thing here is we're going to do the fence lines, and then we're going to do drive time. we've got the fence lines in. So we created this process so we know the fence lines on average take X amount of time longer. We're blowing out those fence lines. Sometimes we're raking them out, especially if it's windy and wet. We're going to go from 1-to-1 fence line. We're going to go to our cheat sheet here and say, okay, fence line, $55, 1 hour, $38 expense. So rate is $55, budget hours is 1, expense is $38. And we'll manipulate this and do the same thing again in case there's extra fence lines up and above a normal standard lot. So we can double it up and put that in there. Save and new. Now we're going to go and figure out how we do drive time. And then as you're watching this, I'm going to put this all together into one place where it automatically calculates all your prices for you. So now we're going to paste that in. And fall cleanup, drive time. I'm just going to call it Z1, zone 1. Postal codes or zip codes work. And we're going to use this for estimates only. Rate matrix. And we are going to base this on, you can also throw that in there just as a test here. So I'm going to go 1-to-1. And we're going to go into drive time 1, 2, and 3, or 1 and 2 here. So this is $45 and 0.82 hours for that drive time. And we got to look up our expense, what it's costing us to actually drive there. It's $31.16 when we're charging $45. If you have any comments or questions, drop them below, and I will get to them here in a few minutes just to break this up. But I didn't want to get lost in the weeds with everybody, but I want to show everybody how to actually do this if they're looking to buy Service Autopilot or actually have it as well. But this can be done in an Excel sheet or Google Doc as well. So that's our drive time 1, and then this is going to be our drive time 2. This will make a lot of sense once this is on the estimate. You'll actually see how this automatically calculates everything for you. So we're going to go in the rate matrix, same process. And drive time 2 was a little bit farther out. So that's 1 hour drive time round trip through there. So it's $55 and $38. That's it's charging $55. It's 1 hour and it's costing us $38. And now we're going from every 1-to-1 trip. Again, it's $55, 1 hour, and $38. So that's everything we've got there. So if you're watching, hold tight. I'm going to show you how to put this together, get a final copy of the estimate, measure that density of the leaves on the Google map, plug it in and have this all calculate out, and how to tie in an estimate with videos to overcome any sales or price objections and replicate yourself through technology to start buying your time back, spend some more time with your friends and family, and don't be a slave to your business. So this is how we're going to do it. So we're going to go into CRM settings. We're going to create a template that preloads everything we just built, so we don't have to recreate the wheel every time we do an estimate. This will load and we can select this. So we're going to go into job estimate templates, and we are going to add a template. So we're going to do our template here. I'm just going to call this our Facebook Live all cleanup. If you're doing this, show when creating jobs and estimates. We want to do both. That's going to give you some more functionality. And literally all we do now is literally add the stuff that we've already created. So we're going to go ahead and add item. We're going to search for our Facebook. So we've got fall cleanup. I believe that is the one that we got here. We're going to add it. And then we're going in this plus button, and we're going to add the additional part here. So these are all of them right here. I want to just make sure we have all of them. Yep. So we're going to go in and we're going to actually just select Facebook fall cleanup. And now we've got the light, medium, and heavy, and the drive times. Doesn't look like we connected the medium, but we can throw that in there. I can show you what the process looks like. So we're going to go in. We've got light, heavy, once we add these in, I'll actually show you how to create the rest of this then. So we're going to go in and do our fence lines, add that in. We're going to go in and add our drive times and dump times. Dump fee. We're going to add our fence lines in for the extra upcharge. We are going to add in drive time 1 and 2. Drive time 1. And we are going to add our last one. I think we're missing one more. Light, heavy, fence lines, dump fees. Fence lines. All right, so we are, looks like we're good. We're missing medium, but I'm not going to bore you with that. It's just the same exact process. So fence lines here I've doubled up, so I'm going to delete that. And what we're actually going to do now is save and close that. But we're going to select an estimate document to tie that in, so we don't have to create an estimate document ever again. It just loads. So I'm going to use my 2018 lawn care document so you guys can see that. And the beauties of doing this live. So bear with me here. We'll get this connected, and then you can see how this all loads automatically for you. And that should be it. We're going to reload that to make sure that document's connected. Now we're going to go in and measure this on Maps Pro, Google Earth, and automate the whole thing. Load an estimate document, load an email, and blast it out to a client and accept it. So we're going to save and close that. With any luck, everything's going to work the way we want. We're going to go in and put a test client. So we have this here. We've got this one set up as a test client. So this is where we're going to go in and measure the property. So we've got, as we go back, take a look here. We've got our services for far as light, medium coverage. We got 80 to 100% tree coverage for heavy. We've got 50 to 79% tree coverage for medium, and then 0 to 49% tree coverage for a light cleanup. So we've got different prices for different things here. So we're going to automatically be able to calculate that right on this client now. So what we're going to do is go into the More tab. We're going to go into property measurements, and this is Google Maps basically. It's going to get its satellite view. And once this loads, I'll show you how we actually do this here. So we're going to go in and click satellite. And this test property we have here is actually pretty light foliage. So there's really no leaves. So this would be a light property. Now we're scrolling down. Maybe some of these homes over here could be medium. There's nothing in here that really jumps out in this neighborhood as heavy. Well, actually, this would be heavy. So that's a perfect example of a heavy. Probably a medium, and then our test client over here would be a light subject here. So I'm going to go in and measure this property here, just around the area here. So we're getting the beds and the turf square footage in there. Double click, and now the total square footage is 10,443 square feet. We're going to go in and select a custom field. So remember, we tied that to turf square footage. So now it's going to remember that turf square footage. So which is pretty cool here is now that we have that, all our other services such as lawn mowing, aeration and overseeding, spring cleanup, anything that has to do fertilization and weed control, anything that has to do with turf square footage now will automatically calculate if we put that service on our template. So now that we've saved that, it's going to pop up and tell us that that square footage is saved. We're going to scroll down. All your custom fields here are saved down here. So turf square footage is 10,000. That's a little cheat sheet for you. But now what we're going to do is very simple. Literally just hit estimate. And this is where the magic happens. This is where it can be delegated. So if you're a one-person operation or 18 to 20 person operation, this is going to be the same workflow where it's going to start buying time back, and it does it all together. So what we're going to do is go to templates and select the pre-built template for the Facebook Live fall cleanup. And that should load everything in there. Now remember, as we made this live, we didn't have the medium in there. So that's missing. But you can see our calculation field here of the 10,444 square feet came up for light. It came up for heavy. And it would have came up for medium if we had added that. But now I have a price for $346 for just the on-site cleaning for heavy cleanups, or no, for light cleanups. And I've got a fall cleanup for heavy of $745. Just for example, I'm going to add that medium. If we saved it here, just so you can see that all load in. And let me just see if we have it on here. We must not have saved that medium. But either way, you get the idea. You've got prices automatically calculating based on what you did. So as your office looks like on that and says, okay, well, that's a light yard. So I can literally just go in and delete that line. And now I've got my light cleanup for $346. There is no fence lines, but if there was a fence line, I could add the number 1 in, and that's going to calculate the extra $55 budgeted hour and $38 cost. And we're always going to have a dump fee, so we're going to put the number 1 in there. And we can set that to default automatically, so you don't ever forget to charge it. And now let's just say this is drive time zone 1. So we'll put the number 1 in there. That calculates that $42 drive time. So all the customer sees is fall cleanup now for $498. We know it's budgeted for 9.11 man hours, and it's going to cost us $355 to do that job. So the delta of $355 and $498 is our profit. Now we've created an automated system that creates a predictable pricing matrix with different variables for a fall cleanup. So the next thing we're going to do literally now is go and hit save. I'm going to show you how we build this out with videos and literally fire this out in seconds. So as I'm doing this, we're going to go out and hit email. I forgot, but we need to hit this as quote. Once we hit quote, we can email it. Like I said, again, not trying to do a sales pitch here, but if somebody's interested in this, we can set this up for a very reasonable cost in probably 10 days or less for you. You can select who in your office it's from. So you can go in, and it's for me now. Estimate request, that email subject line's automatically defaulted in. And this is what our estimate template looks like here. Let me see if I can zoom this out. But we've got, here are the 5 things. Here's the question quoted. Here's the 5 reasons why we're different. This link quote is a clickable link in the actual email that opens up the estimate. So other big tips is with SA, you're able to put clickable buttons. So if they're in their mobile, they can call you now or text you now immediately. And we basically list the 5 or 6 reasons why our business is different. So you can charge these higher prices if you go out and differentiate yourself. We talk about our satisfaction guarantee. We go out and inspect our work. We have equipment and insurance, all the different reasons why we're different than our competitors. And we've included testimonials that customers can read or potential customers can read from our actual customers here. So we're differentiating, we're talking to the customer, we're providing value, and now we're giving them an instant estimate within minutes on the phone. So what we're going to do is hit send. I'm going to hop on the other screen real quick to pull up my email, and I'll actually open up this email here to show you what it looks like. So if you have any questions while I'm doing this, drop them below. Getting near the end of the actual show and tell part of this. So I'm happy to spend a few minutes answering questions regarding this or other business practices. As I mentioned it too, I'm going to be speaking at Service Autopilot's SA5. I think today or tomorrow is one of the last days where you can actually get the discounted tickets. But my talk is going to be something, a spin on this, where Jonathan Potoshnik, the co-founder of Service Autopilot, is going to be going out and talking about his dominate market talk. And I'm going to come out and dominate your market part 2 and actually show you how to use Jonathan's theory to go out and dominate your market and how to execute it in Service Autopilot. So I'm going to give you an executable blueprint, kind of like I am here, on a higher level to go out and take Jonathan's teachings and execute it the next week in your business. So as I pull this over here, this is it right here. This is my email. So I'm going to take a look at that here. And I'm just pulling over to the comments here. If people are looking at it, I'm putting a link to my online calendar. So if you want to grab some time with me to talk about the Done For You implementation, you can click on this link. It's an online calendar and you can do that. So I've got it there in the comments as well. So this is what it looks like. We've got the actual email. So the email that pre-formulated out, hey, Mike, here's your quote. Here's all the different testimonials, the reasons why our business is different. We can click on these buttons. The cool thing here is now if we click here to view my proposal, it's going to open up the live estimate. And if you're watching this, this is one of the key things I recommend. And I know it's very awkward to get in front of video, but make videos about your services. And I'm going to show you where this is plugged in. So we've got our billing information. We've got that fall cleanup for $500, that $498 plus tax. So the customer didn't see everything that we had in this estimate. This is all behind the scenes. So this process is going to ensure that you're making money, you're hitting those variables, you're estimating whether it's a heavy, medium, or light tree coverage, if there's fence lines, dump fees, drive time, any other variables you want to add, you can add those in and ensure that all the things that are in your head as a business owner now can be delegated to your office or an in the field estimator. So this is why that is so, so important. And now we're going back to this proposal. So we've got some invoicing details, general terms, and this is where the magic happens, in my opinion. So we've got these clickable buttons again, but we've gone out and made videos for every service that we do. And literally they explain everything that we do in those services. They're clickable. So I'm going to show you our spring cleanup video here. Fall cleanup needs to be updated here for the fall. And that video is playing live inside the estimate. So now if somebody opens this at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and your office isn't open, we are overcoming any of the sales or price objections, what's included, what's not included, your satisfaction guarantee, and you, the business owner now, are not reliant on answering the phone and answering questions if your office staff can't do it. We've created this in video. So now hopefully that's been helpful. I'm going to dive in and hopefully answer some of these questions live. We still got some people doing it. Brett McCurdy, why based on turf square footage, not the entire yard, including beds? Brett, basically when I measured that Maps Pro, it included the actual beds itself, and it actually, it included that. So as you're looking at Service Autopilot, you can do bed square footage, linear length of beds, all those different variables. So you can create whatever is important for you in that manner. We just measure, we cut the house out in the driveway, everything else is considered turf square footage. And that's just an easy way to measure it. So basically the way I did it there included the beds, and you can break that out there if that makes sense. So let's see if there's any comments or questions while I'm going through here. Troy wants to know if I can post the original sheet. I'll zoom into that in a minute. Doesn't look like there's any other crazy questions here. So I'm going to zoom into that sheet to show you real quick how we set up our pricing matrix for the light and medium. And I'll jump through the process real quick again. But we did a heavy cleanup here. Let me see if I can actually bump out the view here so people can see this. Okay, perfect. So we've got, let me just knock this down just a little bit. Okay, perfect. So we've got, I'm going to cut out the service part, but basically from 1 square foot to 5,000 square feet, we're charging $250. So this is for a heavy tree coverage, for 80 to 100% tree coverage. Budget hours is 0.455 hours. Our charge per man hour is $55. Our break-even cost, what it costs us to operate, is $38. Every 500 over the base price of 5,000 is an additional $25, 0.45 man hours, and a cost of $17.27. So this is the very foundational pieces of building out your matrix. And as we went through the medium and light, you can see our production went up. So we were only producing 5,000 square foot of cleanup per hour on the heavy. Now in the medium, we're producing 6,250 square foot. And then on the light, we're producing, I think it was around 7,800 square feet of cleanup production. So that's beds and turf square footage. So Brett, hopefully that clears that up. So that's the foundational piece. We're going to go in now and then go into Service Autopilot. We're going to set those services up under scheduling settings. You're going to want to do your master and then your parent services. So under services, we're going to go in, add a service right here. And when we add that service in, double click. So give me a second here. Once we click on that add a service, we're going to put the service name, different information they require here. We can link it into the account in QuickBooks, create separate classes, which I highly recommend. And that rate matrix is going to go into quantity rate times visits based on a custom field, which is turf square footage, or in Brett's case, turf square footage with beds. And then this is where the 1 to 5,000 square feet, the rate, the budget hours, and cost are in there. So that is all in there. So it sits in the back. You can restrict it so your employees don't see it. They can't jack with it. And we've locked in our profit. And now the best part is, like, we're going to go in, we're going to hit this client up and literally go into Maps Pro. And I recommend doing that because that is going to be the easiest way of doing that. So hold on one sec here. It looks like my battery is about to die. So we'll plug this bad boy in so I can answer any of the questions. As I'm doing this, don't forget to the SA Weekly Talk Show this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. I've got Jason Cupp coming on live Q&A, 45 minutes to an hour. Just a knowledge bomb. So as we go in here, computer's plugged in. We're going to go in, property measurements, boom. And we're going to go in and measure that property and just dial in. But the cool thing too is you can hit this little arrow thing guy right here, and we can zoom into that. And the aerial view is pretty sick. So where you're at, depending on Google's selections, we can actually measure the square footage of the landscape beds on a lot of these imageries. So we've actually had some pretty good success with a little bit of a fudge factor measuring landscape beds for mulch installs or pre-emergent or post-emergent weed control. So that's been pretty huge, especially on commercial properties. When it would take a day to measure everything, we can do it in less than an hour now. Other cool tip too is if you are doing pool services, what a huge tip here. You can go in under the lead screen and you can actually click on all these addresses and create a database of all the homes with a pool. Or let's just say we're going in here and we're doing this house. We can drop pins on all the houses around it and actually send them property specific pricing. So Jonathan Patoshnik, Lawn Care Millionaire, co-founder of Service Autopilot, calls that a 9-around, where we would literally grab the houses across the street and several on each side. They equal up to 9. I personally use a 12-around. But as we're there, we could say, hey, we're treating this house while we're in the neighborhood. Here's a special price. We can knock out all our work in one day in one neighborhood right on one street. So it's a huge, huge idea to build route density and efficiency in your service area. So I'm going to just check out the rest of these comments here if there's anything else. So Brett wants to know, regarding tree coverage, how do you train someone to determine these different tiers of coverage and percentages? So it's basically, it's not a perfect science, but you're going to want to take screenshots with Jing or another product called Snagit and create a standardized place with that in there. So it's Service Autopilot. We call it a wiki. So if we go in here, we can add a wiki. And this wiki is a database where you could post those pictures of the properties and what you consider light, heavy, and medium coverage, so they have something to reference from. Brett, it's not going to be a perfect science, but on average, I will tell you it does average out, and you're going to make some money on it. And it's just the time of going out to estimate it. The other thing I didn't head on is we can actually go in and create in that matrix, we can add hourly charges and subcontractor charges as well, and create markups. So that's the other big thing that we do in our company. So I'm hoping this was helpful, gives everybody an idea of what you can do in your business to be profitable and actually get this done. So if you have any comments or questions, drop them below. I'll keep an eye on the recorded version. Remember, SA5 tickets go up, I think, by Saturday. And this Thursday, Jason Cupp, Mike Callahan, SA Weekly Talk Show, going to be Thursday at 3 Eastern, 2 Central. Brett, man, thanks again for watching. Dave Voynia, hello, buddy. Orban, and Brett McCurdy, Brian Rooney, Chris, Krista, what's going on? Love you guys up there. Tony Brock as well, Randy Ward and Martha Ward. Appreciate everything you guys do for our support and simple growth and everything we're trying to do and help you guys take your life back from your business. You know, it's been 24 years as a grind as an entrepreneur doing lawn care and snow removal in the Northeast. And, you know, I can candidly say I hadn't been to my shop for almost 25 days this month, up to about 2 Fridays ago. So it's, this can be done. I know it's scary. And I'm not sitting here on a pedestal. We've had our highs and lows. But once you figure out a replicatable system, the business doesn't need you. And it sounds awful, but it just doesn't. You need to take what's in your head, put it into a system like Service Autopilot, or if you're just starting out, maybe a Google Doc or Excel sheet. I think SA starting out is like $59 a month. That's a no-brainer in my opinion. Something like that for $59 a month is going to create automated estimates and billing and systems for you. And I don't know if anybody watching is interested. If you are, chime in. I can go in if you're not using Service Autopilot, and I can actually show you the quick workflow of entering a lead in, how to track the leads, where they're coming from, the billing, the estimating, the scheduling. It's all a one and done system there. So that's what we use in our company. And obviously, as a certified advisor, we can go out and resell that service for you. So you can go right to us. We can sell you Service Autopilot, set it up, and train you all in about 10 days or less. So keep that in mind. Until then, we will see you SA5, GIE. I will be at both of those. And this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, Jason Cupp, Mike Callahan, SA Weekly Talk Show. Just going to drop some knowledge on you. So we'll see you then, and hope everybody has a great evening. Douglas and Brett, what's up, guys? Brett, I am planning on that 4-week vacation, buddy. Haven't had it yet, but I did spend almost a whole month away from the business this month. So